I want to get you more analysis on the story. Wu Changhua, Vice Chair of the Governing Council of Asia-Pacific Water Forum, joins me on Global Watch today. Ms. Wu, a pleasure to have you on our program. President Xi has stressed to turn ambition into actions and support developing countries in particular to improve the abilities to cope with global challenges. What do you make of his address?
It's very important the moment of the time through the COP15 negotiation in the context of the difficulties and challenges to reach global consensus at this particular moment. Chinese President Xi Jinping's remark literally sent the highest level of political will possible as the presidency of COP15. Chinese government definitely wants to make its utmost efforts to make sure, working with the global community, to make a successful process to really deliver a post-2020 biodiversity framework at the end of the COP15. In the process, China definitely has made its own case at the global level. On one side, we have to be ambitious. In the meantime, we have to make sure we put actions actually aligned with the ambitions in order to deliver. At this moment, obviously, there were many ambitious ideas, targets on the table, but somehow what's lacking is consensus. And behind the consensus, actually, or lack of consensus, is lack of actions and commitment on both the financing side as well as on solution side. So the message from the Chinese president at this moment is very, very critical to make sure to remind everyone that, yes, we need to be ambitious, but in the meantime, we need to put our actions actually behind ambitions so that we really deliver the outcome of more biodiverse planets in the future.
Ms. Wu, we've consistently talked about difficulties here on CGTN because, as reality has shown us, the challenges to reaching those climate goals are out there, and it goes without saying that they are very difficult to achieve. But there are also economic incentives in order to get every stakeholder to mobilize in reaching and moving towards those goals. What economic opportunities do you see arising from biodiversity protection?
I think from two particular fronts to look at this issue. On one side is the international negotiation process, because there is a fairness issue and equity issues there. So through the international governance mechanism, we are expecting more and more developed countries need to put their financial support on the table to support the developing countries to continue their efforts to protect biodiversity. On the other side, in reality, we are talking about sustainable production and consumption. I think data and evidence tell us more than 50% of the global GDP literally relies on the healthy functions of the ecosystems there. So it's about actually the health of the ecosystem, but more importantly, it's about sustainability, how we build our economy and how we plan to grow our food, how to make sure we have healthy air and water to breathe. In the meantime, to make sure the harmony between man and nature, so that will be, for the longer term, we'll be able to not only survive but also prosper together with all the other lives on this planet.
This is one aspect where the international community is keenly aware that no country, no nation can succeed single-handedly. How do you view China's role in promoting international cooperation in biodiversity protection?
I think China has made its case, and on one side, particularly from domestic perspective, we made it efforts over the decades, in the last 3 decades in particular, to make sure we've been honoring the commitment on one side, being a signatory to the convention. In the meantime, to really put everything in order domestically, aligning from top level political will and the laws, regulations, and policy targets. In the meantime, really connecting the dots to make sure there is enough financial resources, technology resources, and awareness raising, capacity building put together to put the actions behind ambitions there. One particular example actually is look at the last decade. If you look at Aichi global biodiversity targets, out of the 20 targets globally, we pretty much failed on all fronts. China happens to be one of the very rare cases of countries that have delivered many of the targets. One particular target actually is about the 17% of land ecosystem need to be protected. China overachieved that, reaching about 18% already. This is aligned with the global ambition in terms of the 30 by 30, because without that kind of achievement, experience, and efforts, we cannot possibly actually to deliver much higher level of targets to protect the ecosystems, the habitats. So in the meantime, I think China's learning from its domestic efforts could be shared with globally. It's not about just simply about protecting nature biodiversity. It's also about poverty alleviation, protecting the climate, and also driving sustainable production and consumption. And very importantly, China already taken the efforts actually to put resources and efforts to work with developing world in particular to make sure we develop it together in a sustainable manner. In that context in particular, role of nature, healthy ecosystems having a very critical role to play. This is an important moment in history that hopefully somehow globally will be able to work together to advance the agenda.